Good evening, Baruchim Abayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class is Lilu Nishmat, Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Agon HaTzadik, Reb Shlomo Zalman ben Chanali V'Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, Zchoto Yagen Aleinu V'al Kol Am Yisrael, Amen V'Amen. The Gemara says, after the passing of Rabbi Yochanan, they quoted a pasuk, that that day was hard for the Jewish nation. Ki yom ba hashemesh batzoraim, dichtiv, like it says in the pasuk, ve'veiti hashemesh batzoraim v'hachashachti la'aretz b'yom or. Like Hashem made the sun set early, and He made the world dark in the middle of that day. When an Adam Gadol passes away, especially at a younger age, especially when he was Talmid Chacham, not just an Adam Gadol in Midot, so it's a day that's considered kasheh, very hard day for the whole Jewish nation. As the pasuk says, Kol Beit Yisrael, the entire Klal Yisrael, Yifku es Sreifa asher saraf Hashem, cry the fire that Borei Olam burnt. If we want to understand a little glimpse of what it means when a tzaddik passes away in Chazal's understanding, the Gemara teaches us in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yudchet, L'lamedcha, we're coming to teach you, Sheshkula mitatan shel tzaddikim kisreifat beit Elokeinu. At the passing of a righteous man is the same pain and suffering for the Jewish nation like the day the temple was destroyed, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu burnt the Beit HaMikdash. We have to analyze this for a second. Am Yisrael, for over 1,950 years, hopefully it won't have to happen again this year, mourn for 3 weeks, cry on Shiva Asar Tammuz and fast, on Tisha B'Av and fast, B'leil Zeh Yifkayun, and that night they cry, on Churban Beit Elokeinu, on the destruction of God's home. And the Gemara says that when a tzaddik passes away, it's the same koshi, it's the same hardship to Hashem, just like when he had to burn the Beit HaMikdash. We have to understand what's the comparison between burning the Beit HaMikdash and mitatam shel tzaddikim, the passing of the righteous people. Also, the Gemara, Rashi brings down in Dvarim, Parag Yud, Chazal, shekasha mitatam shel tzaddikim lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the mitah of tzaddikim is hard by Hashem, ki yom shenishtabru bo haluchot, like the day that Moshe Rabbeinu had to break the luchot, because Klal Yisrael wasn't on the level of accepting the first luchot. I think the common denominator between these two Gemarot is a frightening thought. That when a tzaddik passes away, really HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Am Yisrael that it should have been you. But instead of a tragedy happening to the Jewish nation, He takes the tzaddik instead. Because at least the tzaddik, when he goes up to Shamayim, he has the ability to benefit Am Yisrael, to protect the Jewish nation from above. So really, it's not a tzaddik who passed away. It's the generation that passed away. That they weren't worthy of having such a tzaddik living amongst them. The Midrash Rabbah in Eicha, on this says that Kashav Silukan Shel Tzaddikim, when a tzaddik leaves the world, it's hard by Hashem. Yoter v'mea tochachot chaser shtayim shebimishne Torah, more than all the curses by Menan that it says in Mechukotai and Kitavo. U'michurban Beit HaMikdash, and the destruction of the temple. Hashem misalek the tzaddikim, because Hashem Himself is the one who takes away the tzaddikim. Like this, we have many ma'amarei Chazal that discuss the great loss and the great pain in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when a tzaddik leaves this world. But it's not just theoretical. there's very practical implications that have to do with us. There's a Gemara in Shabbat, Daf Kufei Amud Bet, that the Gemara says something that maybe we should take to heart. The Gemara asks, "Mipnei ma meitim banav ubnotav shel adam ksheim ktanim." The greatest suffering that one can experience in the world, and we should never know what it means, is a parent who buries his child. Not just when he buries his child, if he buries a young child, it's even harder. To the point that Chazal say a person like that goes straight to Gan Eden, because in this world he suffered more than anybody could suffer. Why did tragedy happen? And Aleinu v'Alechem we should never know, but the hospitals are filled with young kids. They should all have a refuah shlema from Jewish families that aren't well. Why does this happen, that there's so many sick children? There's so much tragedy, so much suffering with the young generation. Older people want to say, they did sins, they this, they that. The young kid has no sins. What do you want from him? And the Gemara says, Vipnei, because we're talking about the parents, Lo bacha v'itabel al adam kasher. That a righteous person passed away, and he didn't cry and mourn over the fact that a righteous person passed away. And this is said about an adam kasher. Now imagine it was an Adam Tzaddik and also a Talmid Chacham. You see, Chazal had a very, very strong, not only opinion, but a very strong demand from the Jewish nation to make an observation and a clear understanding of an Adam Kasher that passes away. We have to understand why. The Gemara takes it to such an extreme that the Gemara in Shabbat Kufei says, Kol hamitzatzel be'espedo shel chacham. If somebody's lazy to say a proper eulogy, for example, on a Talmid Chacham, Ra'ui, what should happen to him, not that it happens to him, God forbid, but what it should happen to him, is Ra'ui lekovro b'chayav. We should bury him alive. That's pretty extreme, no? It's very out of character. For the Gemara to curse a person like that, Ra'ui lekovro. Why? Why is this such a big deal? And the truth is, there are Ma'amarei Chazal that are in a direct conflict to that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says clearly that when he takes a tzaddik and a tzaddik comes to him, nefesh naki v'tzaddik, it seems like it's some sort of happy day to him. There's a Ochev aravot sas v'sameach, God in heaven is happy. B'voi lav nefesh naki v'tzaddik, when a righteous man comes to him. Marab Moed Katan Chafei, right, brings us down. Rav Abba Rav Huna and Rav Hamnuna, they both say, bring this down. Sas v'sameach, Hashem has a joy. On one hand we just said that Hashem has such a tzar like Churban Beit HaMikdash, and such a tzar like we can't understand. On the other hand, Sas v'sameach, how can you be happy and cry at the same time? Which one is it? Chevar avot sas v'sameach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a big simcha. L'chora it's a tmiyah, it's a direct contradiction. It doesn't make sense. Which one is it? So to understand that, the answer is very simple. And how ra'ui it is for Mori v'Rabi Zitzal, this idea. For Am Yisrael, it's a day of mourning because they lost a great man. But in that day of mourning, there's two beacons of light and hope. One is that by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when the neshama comes back pure, it's a happy day. Because unfortunately, many souls don't come back pure, and that's a very sad day. For example, my uncle Rav Nissim Zitzal, his Yahrzeit is going to be Sunday night. He used to say over a parable all the time, that one day a guy woke up in the morning in the yeshiva and he saw, he doesn't have a shirt. All the shirts are in the cleaners, there's no shirt. So he turns to his roommate and he says, you know, we're more or less the same size, I got to go learn. It seems like your closet is full of shirts, let me borrow a shirt. And his friend says, sure, why not? I can tell you when I was in yeshiva in the dorm, that was a very common thing. I was the American boy in Israeli yeshiva, so I probably had more shirts than most people, so I had a gemach of shirts practically. Every guy didn't have a shirt. It was even more than that. Some boys had dates and they didn't have nice shirts or whatever, so they would come to me because I had the American shirts that psychologically to them was nicer, so they would borrow my shirts. I always asked them, what's going to happen a day after your wedding when your wife asks you, where's all your nice clothes? Why don't you think a step ahead? It's not always so good to put up a fake show. No. So he lends a shirt to his friend. So the normal thing to do would be that before you return it, you put it in the dry cleaners, no? You give it back clean like you got it. Not everybody has common sense. There's a quote that I like that somebody once wrote. I don't remember what the source is, but it's in posters and t-shirts. He doesn't understand why it's called common sense when it's so uncommon. A lot of depth to that quote. Yeah. Guy borrows a shirt, comes back, gives it back. Not only didn't he clean it, you could tell everything he ate in the past 24 hours because there's a zecher l'chuvan all over the shirt. A little wine, a little this, a little that, stains all over the place. When you see something like that, so you're entitled to be a little upset. I gave you a white shirt that was spotless, that was perfectly clean. You don't want to give it back, after the cleaner's fine, but at least make believe you cared. Wash it, something. Make it look a little bit good. Stam like that, to be mizalzel and just throw it back like that with no... Zero care. So my uncle Zitzal used to say, Elokai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi, right? That's how we start our morning, because of shacha. What do we start and say that? It's to remind us, it's not a prayer. It's to remind us, the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us the neshama, which is perfectly pure, perfectly clean. And He Himself created it, and He Himself put it in us. And Hashem says, you don't want to make your neshama better? That's your choice already, I can't do anything about it. But at least give it back to me as clean as it was when I gave it to you. That much I deserve. So Sas v'Sameach, Ochev Aravot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's happy. Bevoy lav nefesh naki, when it's neshama that's clean, and on top of that it's a tzaddik, it's a double simcha. That's why it's sas v'sameach. There's two languages of simcha. Number one, he gave it back as clean as he got it. Number two, it was a nefesh of a tzaddik. That means he made it even better. He bettered the thing that he got. So that's a great, great simcha by Hashem. But why is the day hard, like the day of the destruction of the temple? The day the temple was destroyed affected the Jewish nation in a few ways. The main way is what the pasuk says in Yeshaya Yud Aleph, Ki mala haaretz deya et Hashem, that we're waiting for the day that Mashiach will come, because at that day the world will be filled with God's knowledge. When the Beit HaMikdash was there, any child who wanted to say Emunah, who wanted to see faith, who wanted to develop a Kirvat Elokim, any person who had a personal dilemma of what to do, how to do, he had where to turn to, he had where to go. He would go to the Beit Hashem, and he would see Emunah. There were 10 Nisim that happened every day in the Mikdash. And he would ask the Kohen to ask the Urim V'Tumim if there was a question that qualified Al Pi Halacha to do so, and he would get a clear answer. When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Klal Yisrael lost those two big tools. The place that they used to gain Da'at Hashem, the knowledge of God, and Emunah was gone. And the place where they would get an answer to every question they had was taken away too. "23.5 years ago, on a Shabbat afternoon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me the zchut to meet Mori Rebbe Reb Shlomo Zalman, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was a young, troubled teenager who was lost, completely lost. On one hand, I was a brilliant boy. I knew a lot of learning. I was very successful in Olam HaYeshivot. But my brilliance also went to other places as well. And it was a winter Shabbat afternoon. Shabbat's over early those days in the winter. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It was January, it's like 5:30. And at 3 o'clock that afternoon, and a friend of ours is no longer alive either, Abnot Takazu Zecher Tzadik Levacha's house, we sat down for a conversation. Mincha, no? Sudar Shlishit, Arvit, Havdalah, so many different things have to be done at that time. But by him, Mincha and taking out a Sefer Torah was taking out a Jewish neshama that to him was the ultimate Sefer Torah. And he didn't only take out the Sefer Torah from the Aron HaKodesh. Sometimes he took out the Sefer Torah from the dumps, from the mud, from the pain, from the horror, from the misery of a struggling teenager. And we sat down to a conversation in a house behind closed doors, and at that point the clock stopped, the world didn't exist. And that conversation went on for 14 hours and 45 minutes. Straight. My Rebbe Zitzal used to tell me many times when it was Nogea, many different ways to go about things and deal with people. He said, my whole life I daven Mincha and Ma'ariv. I don't think there was ever a day I missed, except for when he was in Oinon and his father, and times Al Pi Halacha he couldn't. He said, and all my Mincha and Ma'arivs were very special. I always put my whole heart into my prayer. Yeah, he belonged to Breslov a little bit. Nachman's Avodas HaTfilah is a very high level of Avodas HaTfilah. He said, but whether Hashem listened to my prayers those days or not, I have no way of knowing. I'll only find out when I come in front of Kisei HaKavod. But that day that I didn't pray Mincha and I didn't pray Avit because of Pikuach Nefesh of a struggling teenager, that Mincha and Ma'ariv I know for sure was accepted by Hashem. Because that was a Mincha and Ma'ariv that I gave Hashem completely. He was a man who had thousands of followers, tens of thousands of followers. He was in America for a very specific reason, a very personal reason. And nothing was important because it was a young kid that was confused. And there's so many people that met him over the years that everyone has the identical story. A very, very close friend of mine who I brought to Reb Shlomo a few times throughout the years wrote to me an interesting thing on Tuesday after the funeral. He said, I grew up in the mainstream yeshiva world. I went to very prestigious yeshivas, not to disclose who he is, I'm not saying the names of the yeshivas, but American yeshivas were very prestigious ones. I had many great Rashei Yeshiva, many great rabbis, amazing parents, great friends, family, some that are alive, some that passed away. And this man I only met a few times. But with all those people in my life, I never felt the connection. And with this man that I met a few times in my life, I actually felt connected. And on this, it's V'chol Beit Yisrael yifku et asreifa asher saraf Hashem. This is not an Evel Yachid, a mourning of a student for his Rebbe, but it's a mourning for Klal Yisrael that lost the man who loved and understood them most, and who cared about every Jew at his own expense, with no interest in anything in return. When the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we said Klal Yisrael lost two things, two main things. They lost so many things, but the ability to be shoev emunah, to get emunah from a place that you would go to and see Hashem, and the ability to get answers to the questions and to get a clear direction on what they wanted to do in life. In the past 2.5 days, or close to 3 days by now, that I'm still in the process of digesting what I thought could never happen. I keep on asking myself the same question, what now? Reb Shlomo was the man who, every single decision I made in my life, down to the tiniest one of a simple answer of what I gave a person that came to ask me a question, He was the driving force behind it. And if there was ever a doubt or a dilemma, he answered it instantly, without fail. Day in, day out, as a top priority for 23 and a half years straight. He attended my wedding, even though he wasn't Misada Kiddushin. I had family circumstances that didn't allow me to give him Siddur Kiddushin, so I called him and I said, Rebbe, you're going to come from Israel to the wedding, we can't even give you Siddur Kiddushin, it's disrespectful. And he told me, I'm well aware of all the circumstances around. I'm coming, and not only don't I want Siddur Kiddushin, I don't want a blessing under the chuppah either. He says, I like keeping a low profile. He sat by my chuppah in the back row of the room. Here's the man who the only reason why I ever got married was because of him. The only reason why I ever became anything in the world was because of him. And he would come to the wedding and sit in the back row. And that was his joy, that was his pride. At the end of the wedding, when we made Sheva Bachot after the wedding, so I wanted him to say one of the Sheva Bachot, at least that. And then he told me, no, now there's only a few people left because it was very late at night, so I could get away with it. But nobody has to know. And he even told the photographer that he can't take pictures. He said a bracha on that. That was it. Unbelievable thing. How much those in the rabbinic world have to learn from this man. I only go to places that I'm Misada Kiddushin. Who are you? Here was the Gdol Ador who did the opposite extreme. I only this, I only that. Everything was unconditional. Day in, day out. Unbelievable thing. Emunah, the emunah that we saw by him, there's no way to explain. I want to share with you part of what's less known. Reb Shlomo never had plans to be in America, even though for the last 30 years he was here for about 6 weeks a year. Hashem had plans that America needed him. And a weird thing happened. He had a home that was very small, he had many children, he had to sell it and buy a new home. There was some period of time in the interim where he couldn't, he was waiting for the new home to be finished in order to pay for it. And the money that he sold his old home for, he had saved somewhere. And some dishonest person, who he never was willing to tell me who it was, convinced him or lied to him that he has a investment that's 100% safe and secure, and he's put the money there, and that's going to protect his money, and he'll make money on it in the meantime. And he was a naive guy learning in Mir Yeshiva by Ibn, and he trusted him, and he gave him all his money, everything he had. And this was going to be his house for his family that was in the process of growing. I think then they had 8 children. Later on he had 11 children in total. They shall all live and be well. And one day the guy took off and the money was gone, obviously. And he found himself having to pay for a house and not even having a down payment, when technically he had the money for the house, because someone stole it from him. He went to his father, Binyamin Zev Cheshen, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the man who created the idea called Kiruv. Today we know all these organizations and websites and this and that. None of it would exist without Rabbi Binyamin Zev Cheshen. He was the first Jew in Israel who ever even cared enough to look towards another Jew in Israel who was secular, especially Sephardi, and to help him out. And he went to his father and he said, what do I do? It was all taken away. And Rabbi Binyamin Zev told him then, Shlomo, you should know that if Hashem takes something away, it's to give something so much greater. And he took away the money in order to give you such a greater opportunity. And that's to go to America to collect money for yourself. That's a great opportunity. That's the most humiliating, degrading thing that could be. What's an opportunity in that? We should never know. And then he told him like this, you're going to go to America. And in America, right away, they're going to realize that you're an Adam Gadol, you're a great man. And they're going to give you kavod, they're going to give you honor. Run away from kavod, stay away from honor. Stay out of the limelight at any cost. But you're not going to America to raise money. You're going to America because Hashem sent you there. If on the way people happen to give you money, so be it. You're going to America to help the American boys and I can't say girls because you didn't talk to girls, that have nobody to talk to, that have nobody to listen to them, there's nobody who understands, that there's nobody who accepts them for who they are without judging, and will help them and guide them and hold their hand through every step along the way. That's why you're going to America. And then he added on a very deep thing. He said the satisfaction that you'll get out of seeing the results of your great work, that's what's going to be the biggest payment in the world. And that's the greatness of Hashem, that he takes away money, which is a tangible thing, to give you a priceless thing, a generation of young boys that you'll bring back to Kanfei HaShechina. And for 30 years, every year, the day after Tu B'Shvat, he would land here in JFK in the morning, and he would stay until Hey Nisan, and that was the time that he had to raise money for himself. Number one, to pay some of his debts down. Number two, to have what to live off of going forward. And he never made any effort to raise money. He used to sit, whether it was by his niece, Mrs. Treitel, in Flatbush, or in Lakewood, first by Nota, in later years by others, myself included, and just help people. There were days that I went to him and I said, Rebbe, what are you doing? I scheduled you appointments. They're wealthy people that want to help you out. They're going to give you large sums of money. You got to leave. We have an appointment. And I used to come to him with religious cases because I thought that would work. Chayecha kodmim. My life, your life comes first. And this boy could wait till tomorrow. And every time again, the answer was always the same. He would get angry at me, or at least he would show an anger. He'd say, I don't understand. That's the way I raised you. I don't get it. He said, we're going to let a Jewish teenager go to sleep confused? Money, Hashem sends. Those people are just messengers. What does it make a difference? And just turn it all down, like nothing. And there were years he went back empty-handed. The only thing he took back with him was the little that the closest people to him that were aware he needed gave him. Because to him, everything was secondary when it came to helping out a Jewish child. There was nothing, literally nothing, in the world at any time of the day or night that ever came first. Now there are a lot of people that do wonderful, wonderful things that help others. But there are very few people that help others, A, in an unconventional way with a deep understanding and wisdom, and B, that are huge Talmidei Chachamim. It would be a terrible, terrible misjustice and almost a disgrace to talk about Reb Shlomo's great help and great miracles and many other things that we know that if we have time we'll mention, without talking about the important part, and that was his vast amount of knowledge in Torah. Reb Shlomo was a Gaon Olam that succeeded to hide his Geonut. There wasn't a place in Bavli and Yerushalmi that he didn't know clearly by heart at any given moment. And there wasn't one piece in the entire Zohar that he didn't know word for word down to the letters, including the different Giyosot to the spellings. A lot of times we would read a Zohar together, and he would smile to me and say, you know, when I was younger and we used to learn it, we had a Zohar that they spelled this word with an Aleph instead of an Ayin, or with an Aleph instead of a Hey. He would remember each book, which print, and which that, how they spelled each thing in each way. He didn't start his day without learning 18 chapters of Mishnayot. Some of us don't learn 18 chapters of Mishnayot in a year. He wouldn't start his day. Ga'on olam enigla nistar, in levels that make no sense. And a person like that, what does he need to be sitting in a small room in Mea Shearim behind Manny's bookstore? You can't even call it a room. He used to call it himself the churva, the place of destruction. And somebody gave him a room years ago. And he never wanted to leave because he said the walls have so much kedusha from all the mitzvahs that he did there. And even not this past winter, he wasn't well, the winter before, the ceiling already had a hole in it, the roof. And it was raining in, and the guy who owned the building didn't want to fix it. And he didn't let us fix it. And he wouldn't move out of there. He stayed there at all times. He said, this is it. This is where I started. This is where I'm finishing. This is my place. Po eishev ki yivitia. Here I'll sit because this is what I love. A man who had many wealthy students who would have gladly taken from him the fanciest offices and the nicest cars and the best drivers and the biggest and best of everything. We were all like that. We all wanted to do it. And he never agreed for 1 second to anything. To the point, I remember once he needed a watch. There was a guy actually from this community that gave it to him. And before we gave him a watch, he wrote to me on a piece of paper all his conditions of the watch. And one of the conditions were that it can't be any name, any brand name, and it can't cost more than $200 retail, not wholesale. That's what he was busy with. That was what was important to him. And then he told me clearly why. He said, because every piece of Elam Hazard that I put on myself is one less piece of Torah that I'm going to be able to put inside myself. And he quoted a Chazal that says that. Gaon Olam. We used to sit and talk to him and learning and be blown away. There were so many times that I asked him, I said, Rebbe, you could be the biggest Rosh Yeshiva in the world. Tomorrow you open a yeshiva, you'll say Shir. It'll be sold out in 20 minutes. You sit here in this little small chura. What do you need this for? What do you need this for? Come, let's... And of course, I would come with my wisecrack L'Shem Shamayim. You could help more people that way. You'll reach more people that way. It'll be this, it'll be that. And again, he would turn to me and say, Yaakov, I don't understand you. That's not the way I raised you. He says, help is one-on-one. It's privately. It's not in big public forums. It's not by helping big institutions. It's that the person on the other side of the table should feel an equal and feel cared for and loved to the point that there's nothing else in the world more important to him. That in a big yeshiva you can't accomplish. And all the yeshivas are worthless in comparison to helping a Jew. And God forbid he didn't disrespect yeshivas. This was the advocate of Olama Yeshivot when it came to many subjects, including the military draft. Nefesh Noki V'Tzadik. Neshama of somebody who was clean, who was pure and righteous. And Hashem gave him, and that's chus, an unbelievable siyata d'ishmaya, and unbelievable powers, both b'derech hateva and b'derech nes, that where everybody else gave up, where nobody else had a solution or a chance or a hope, he always came up with something. It was unreal. It was unreal. Whenever I had a boy who already went to every therapist out there and psych wards and this and that, and there's nothing to do, and the parents would call me and say, "No, do you have anything else to offer?" And I would always tell them, first of all, let's clarify, I never offered the other stuff because I don't believe in it, because my Rebbe doesn't believe in it. But now, let's go to the next step. Yeah, if you're willing to fly to Israel, there's a man named Reb Shlomo, bring your son to him. And the success was 100% of the time. Siyata d'Shmaya and care. He actually cared. If you had a problem, it was his problem. If I would talk to him on the phone and he would hear that my voice is a little bit, whatever, off, or, when you speak a lot, it happens a lot. He would call me 2 days later and tell me, "No, are your vocal cords better?" Once when I was by him, this is years ago, he was giving me a blessing. So I said, "Rabbi, give me a blessing. I have lower back pains that drive me crazy. Bless me, I should feel better. It'll make it easier for me to stand." So he gave me a warm blessing. And then he asked me, when am I flying back to Israel? From Israel back to the United States. And I told him I was going the next evening, or next night, whatever, next evening to the airport, the next night was the flight back. So he told me, come back tomorrow. So I told him, I'll gladly come back tomorrow. Any minute I can spend with you, I will, but what's, I don't like taking up your time, especially that I know you're very busy with something now. He says, no, I once saw some sort of thing that you can put on your feet that helps lower back pains. I want to see if I can find it in the stores. I said, Rebbe, in America we have Amazon. I'm sure if there's such a thing, I could find it on Amazon in 30 seconds. He said, I'm sure you could find it in America too. But then I lost my mitzvah of helping my Talmud. I don't want Amazon to have the mitzvah of helping my Talmud. And he was insistent on going and looking and overpaying, and it was inconvenient for me also because to take this thing back. And then he called me a couple of days later, is it helping? And I said, no. He said, yeah, I asked people after I bought a few, and they also told me it doesn't really help. The guy just makes all these false claims. No, at least I tried. And then I told him, Rebbe, in the schus that you tried, Hashem is going to help. And he said, yesh b'zeh mashu, there is something. And I'm not going to say everybody has some level of lower back pains, that's normal for everybody in the world. But what was going on then just disappeared like it never happened. Had a few herniated discs and gone, as if they never happened. It's an unreal thing. It's a koach to understand, to care about every little detail. Every single time I walked into his house, the first question was, or into his office, did you eat today? And of course I always answered yeah, whether I did or didn't. What did you eat? Because he knew my way of answering. And then I would start and he would say, no, we can't talk. On an empty stomach, nobody talks calmly. Let's go get food. And I said, Rebbe, it's fine, I'll get later. I didn't eat either. He probably ate breakfast because he used to be makbid, the ma'asas pat shacharit, you have to eat every day. And I only years later found out, we used to go to a bakery that was near his place, that they had some borekas there that I used to like. And I years later found out that he wasn't even allowed to eat those borekas because of his sugar conditions and other medical issues that he had throughout the years. But he would go as if that's what he wanted to eat, and he would tell me to buy it, and he would eat it with me, even though it was against his medical rules, just so I should feel comfortable to eat while I'm sitting by him. Today, the average Adam Gadol, if you go in and sit down to have a meal by him, right, they would throw you out on your head. And he went and encouraged every Jew that sat down by him to have something to drink or to have something to eat. And what'd you eat today? Because he cared about the tiniest details. He would notice the color of my jacket. He would tell me, this blazer is new, right? Titchadesh, you should wear it in good health. How do you even know these things? When he himself didn't change jackets, and I don't know, I think once I bought him a long, what he wore, a rekel, it's called a long jacket. And he'd tell me, no, I think it's a good thing that we bought it today. So I was happy, finally accepted something. He said, because 17 years I didn't buy a new one. 17 is Gematria Tov, so it's Davar Tov that we bought it. So the man who didn't change jackets in 17 years saw that by a student who likes clothing, it's worth paying attention to the tiny detail. Oh, you got something new. It's very nice. He would quote a Gemara. The Gemara teaches us clearly, when somebody buys something new and you're aware of it, you should compliment them and tell them how good it is. And even if it doesn't look so good, you should still compliment them and tell them how good it is. And even if they overpaid, you should tell them they got a good deal. But they shouldn't feel bad, yeah. Today we think we're smarter. We tell people, I could have bought the same thing on sale for 50% less. What are you doing? Poor guy already paid. Why are you hurting him? It's against Divrei Chazal. Chazal HaKadoshim clearly say the opposite of that. And by this Torah giant, that the whole Torah was open in front of him like nothing, he understood. And during his life, I never had even a thought or courage to say anything that had to do with his great koach hatfilah and the great nisim that he did, or he caused. Because he would get very upset if he would hear it back that I said anything like that. Because again, Reb Shlomo's way was cover up for everything, hide everything, make believe it's nothing. But if you want to know to what extreme, I was once with him, and somebody came in with a certain problem, and he gave him a warm blessing, and then he told him, I want to give you advice, go and get a blessing from him. No. So when the guy left, I told Reb Shlomo, I don't understand. This rabbi that you sent him to is years younger than you. We're lucky if he gets to the dust under your feet. He's a nobody. I'm saying, whatever, yeah, maybe he learned in yeshiva a couple of years, but that's where it starts and ends. You're sending to him, is there a secret that I should know? Maybe I'll go to him too. He said, no, don't go to him. So I said, so why'd you send this guy? He said, because he has a big problem. And I gave him a bracha, and Be'ez Hashem, he's going to have a big ness. But I don't want him to say that I got a bracha from Rav Chesh. So let him say that guy gave him a blessing, and that's what helped him. And he said, in any way, that guy needs a little attention and chizuk and whatever, so it'll be good for him that there should be a miracle story about him. It'll make him feel better. It'll encourage him to do his job right. That's what he said, something like that. What a musik. We do the opposite extreme, right? Take credit for things that we didn't do. He covered up for everything he did, every trace, every trail, literally covered up to the craziest extreme. There was once that he told me that we should go to Miami. He was in New York. He told us to go to Miami for 2 days. He wanted to go to Miami to visit a gentleman who he considered close to him, even though at that point I don't know if they even met yet. But he felt close to this specific Jew. Very, very special Jew, who I consider a very close friend myself. But he didn't want that guy to know that he came special for him, because then he'll feel uncomfortable or whatever it is. So he covered it up with all different stories why he came. And we were in Miami, and the second day we were there, we had a flight back in the late morning. And he didn't have a chance to go to the mikveh yet. Reb Shlomo was makbid his whole life to go to the mikveh every single day. When he was in the hospital in terrible, terrible suffering, I'm saying since November until 2 days ago, he was in the hospital pretty much straight, minus a week and a half in the middle, or 2 weeks in the middle. He told me that all his suffering he has no problem with. He says, that's from Hashem, it's a gift he accepts with love. The only thing that bothers him is that the doctors don't let him go to the mikveh. A man is battling esophagus cancer, going through chemo and radiation and then surgery and all that, that's fine. But he can't go to the mikveh. That's what bothers him. So he tells me, Yaakov, before we go to the airport, we have to stop by the mikveh. I have to go to the mikveh. He said he's makbid. It should never be from shkia to shkia that he doesn't go to the mikveh. It should never happen. Like when he used to fly from America back to Israel, so before he would take a flight at 11:50 p.m. So before the flight, he can go to the mikveh on the way to the airport, in case the flight gets delayed when it lands in Israel, that he didn't miss that day of mikveh. So I told him, Rabbi, we got an hour and 10 minutes to the flight. We have about 15 minutes to get to the airport. Even that's cutting it tight. If you tell me we should go a later flight or buy new tickets or whatever, they're not refundable. It is what it is. And we're checked in and everything, so we can get there a little late. But, there's a limit. There's no time for mikvahs now. He tells me, no plane is going to leave without me. In those words. He didn't say the flight will leave. No plane is going to leave without me. I made peace with it. I said, okay, so we wasted $1,000. Well, not that I'm being mezalzel on money, chas v'shalom, but like, whatever, for the Rebbe, fine. We'll get new tickets later and goodbye. Because with him also, he didn't see ladies, and that, so it was a little complicated when he flew. The arrangements had to be made. And he goes to the mikveh. I think it was the mikveh in Bal Harbor, the Chabad mikveh there. I'm pretty sure that was the one. And I thought he would go in and at least fake it that he's trying to go out quickly, 2 minutes, he'll go toivel and come out. An hour and 15 minutes he was in the mikveh. An hour and 15 minutes that felt to me like a lifetime. Now I didn't get scared something happened to him because I knew that on a regular day that's what he does. You know why he spent an hour and 15 minutes in the mikveh? Because he held that he could be poel yeshuot for Klal Yisrael through the mikveh. So he would have a notebook that he wrote down the names of all the people he spoke to that were suffering. There are many, many people in this room that he knows your names and your mother's names by heart, that he knew your names and your mother's names by heart. And he went to the mikveh and he would dip for each one separately every day. So it would take a lot of time. He carried Klal Yisrael in his heart. He carried Klal Yisrael in his heart. A lot of times I would ask him about different girls, what shidduchim, what other things, what to do, what the solution is. And he said, I don't talk to girls, what should I do? I can't help them. You talk to them. I used to always tell him it's a double standard. You don't do it and you're telling me to do it. He said, no, that's the way it is. He said, certain things you're not allowed to ask on your Rebbe. That's what he used to answer me. And then he would tell me what the names give me. And it could be a week or two later and he would ask me, anything new? No, maybe I didn't have enough kavanah in the mikveh. A month later, in one case a year and whatever later, he asked me again. And he knew the names by heart like that, one after another. He carried Klal Yisrael, aluach libo, in his heart at all times. And when we come out of the mikveh, so he goes into the car and he says, no, he tells me it was a good mikveh. I said, what does a good mikveh mean? He said, it was siyat d'shmaya. He didn't want to answer what. Okay, a lot of things he did that. He would just hint and he said, let's go to the airport. I said, Rabbi, the flight already is over. There's no airport. We're going to get a flight later on. But if we fly in an hour or two, even if we can get a flight, you're going to miss mincha. There's going to be a problem with the minion. So let's stay here. We'll pray mincha with them later on today. We'll get something to eat maybe along the way. Maybe we could even go help another Jew while we're at it. And at night, after Mincha Ma'ariv, then we'll fly. We'll take the last flight back to LaGuardia or JFK or something like that. He said, how much longer do you want to delay the flights in Florida? And I looked at him like he fell off the moon. Like, what are you talking about? But I took out my phone. And I figured, let me check, maybe this flight's delayed a little bit. And when I put it into Google Flights, it says, due to severe weather, all flights in Fort Lauderdale Airport have been grounded. We made it to the flight. Now you want to know a bigger pella? Out of all the flights that were grounded, when they ungrounded the flight 35 minutes after we got to the airport, the first flight that took off to New York to anywhere was us. How much longer do you want to keep the airport closed? That was his worry. And then on the plane, he looks at me and he tells me, things like this you don't have to say over. Things like this you don't have to say over. Cheshbonos Shamayim. We were driving once to Reb Shlomo Bar Yochai's cave at the Daven. I asked him once for a blessing for a specific thing, and he told me this I can't do on my own. We have to go to Reb Shlomo Bar Yochai. Let's go to Reb Shlomo Bar Yochai. There was crazy traffic. It was rush hour, peak rush hour. It was crazy traffic, and he looks at me naively in the middle of the road, and he tells me, "What's taking so long?" I realized that he must have been in his own world. He wasn't paying attention to what's going on. I said, "Rabbi, I don't know. I know you don't look out of the window, but there's a lot of traffic. That's what's taking so long." So he tells me, "You don't know the shame to be mechaven to get by the traffic?" I said, "No, I don't know." And he asked me how old I am. I told him, and he said, "You're too young." By now I'm old enough, but there's no Rebbe to get the information from. It's a wild thing. It's a pillar. I have many friends that are not, they weren't at least, Shomer Torah Mitzvot, and interacted with him once in their lifetime, on one level or the other. Sometimes it was even something as trivial as a technicality. I have a close friend that worked for Elal for many years in security. He was a regular Shomer Torah Mitzvot now. He lives in Brooklyn. And he interacted with Reb Shlomo one time in his life, when Reb Shlomo and I were flying to Israel together, and he was the security guy, the one who had to ask him the questions. Did you pack the suitcase by yourself? Did you this? Did you that? He was asking the questions. When he was done asking him the questions, so Reb Shlomo answered everything. Reb Shlomo turned to him and said that in America he heard that there's something called, everything has to be balanced, equal rights. He said, so if you asked me a bunch of questions, so that means I'm entitled to ask you a few questions. So I want to ask you a few questions. And I guess the guy was in a good mood. Normally they would tell you, what are you, crazy? Like, he was in a good mood, and he told them, yeah, sure, go ahead, Rabbi, what do you want to ask? So he said, I want to ask you if you had lunch today. So he tells him, no, I didn't have lunch today. He said, why? He said, I'm on a shift, I'll finish in 2 hours, whatever, then I'll go get food. Reb Shlomo said, I knew that was going to be a problem. And he opens up his carry-on, he was all with a big smile on his face, and he pulls out a little bag with cakes and whatever. He says, I brought you lunch today. And then he tells him, and I tasted it, it's good, I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy it a lot. The guy tells him, no, I don't need it, whatever. Turns out later the guy told me that they're not allowed to accept anything from anybody for safety reasons. And he tells him, why? You don't eat white flour? Don't worry, I have with whole wheat flour also. You don't eat with sugar? I have without sugar also. And then he looks at me and he says, Yaakov, he must have not grown up in the same school that we grew up in. That was his humble way of doing things, saying we as if we're equal. They always have to have everything that a Jew might need ready with you. So with sugar, without sugar, whole wheat, regular. A Yid that's carrying the whole Shas and Klal Yisrael in his heart, and he's busy thinking in advance that the security guy that's going to ask him questions and annoy him maybe didn't eat breakfast or lunch today, so let's bring him something to eat. And this guy looks at Rav Chesed and he tells him, Rabbi, I don't get it. You really, that's why you have all this? He said, I know I'm a little bit heavy, but I don't eat so much, right? Obviously, that's why. There's no other reason. He said, I never saw such a thing before. There's a phenomenon. He said, then you're not surrounded by the right people. So that's my next question to you. Why don't you surround yourself by people who actually care? The guy froze, he was like pale. And then he tells him, listen, I have to go back to work, I'm going to get in trouble here. How do I keep in touch with you? And he tells him, I'll tell you the truth, I'll give you my phone number, but it's very hard to reach me, you're in a different time zone, and I don't answer the phone so much, and this and that. And I don't have text message or anything, so there's no way to message me. Take his phone number also, man. Can't be in touch with him. Then on the plane he tells me, no, Yaakov, ipalti alecha project, I dropped on you a project. Today the guy's a Shem Torah Mitzvahs, he's married, he has 2 beautiful children, lives in Flatbush, his kids go to Cheder. Over an Adam Gadol that cared enough to ask him, did you eat lunch today? It's a pellet. The truth is, it was weird to me also, like, what a weird question. Like, I was scared of the answer that the guy would answer him, because I'm used to the way they sometimes get upset. Maybe even rightfully so, they're busy protecting people and doing their security job. They don't have time to waste with your nonsense. But by him, it came from a genuine place. And why don't you surround yourself by better people who actually care? And that's what changed his life. That's why he lives in Flatbush today, in an area that's a frum neighborhood, because he wants to surround himself by Bnei Torah, by people who actually care. Vahi lepele. It's a wondrous thing. Every time we needed a big thing to change to the good, so he had another way of covering things up. Let's go to my father's cave. Let's go to Rabbi Yashiv's cave. Let's go to this cave. The reason why I realized that it's not that, it's because every time he picked a different cave, if he had some connection with his father, and that's what helped, so he would always go to his father. Sometimes it was a random cave of a rabbi that passed away a few months before, but that was an easy way to cover up for what he was about to do. That was an easy way to cover up. I had the schut to be I'm just quoting his words, I don't know this. And originally, for years, I used to think that he just said it to make me feel good, but later on I found out it's actually true. One of the people that he was closest to in the world. And it's not on my merits. I guess he just realized I needed the attention, the warmth, and the love. And I'm saying he broke all his rules for me. All his rules. Came to all my family events, he never did that by anybody. Even if the events weren't exactly whatever, the way he wanted it, or the way he would have done it for his kids. He broke all his rules for me, time in, time out. It's an amazing thing. A great man sometimes knows when you have to downplay your greatness and not be so great because it's at somebody else's expense. It's an amazing thing, but there's so much truth to that. And I'll give you an example. When he flew alone, he never agreed to even fly business class. He only flew economy. Even though it made things 100 times more complicated, because we had to get him an area that there weren't people, because, the women issue and this and that. But he still insisted on, he said, I'm a simple man flies simple ways, that's it, case closed, goodbye. When he would fly with me, he would call me a few days before and he would tell me, maybe you could arrange, it should be business class or first class, because he knew I like comfort. So he wanted me to feel comfortable, and he knew I wouldn't sit there alone. So he gave up on his principle of not doing something only during those times. And then when he would come to Israel, he would always smile to me with like a little loving smirk, and he'd say, no, now I could go back to being a simple person. It was like his, now I could go back to being a simple person. One day we were in the office in Yerushalayim, and he had to go back to his house in Ramot. He used to take the bus. Now we used to fight with him all the time. It's not healthy for you. It says he was young. He was only in his young 70s, but still, it's not respect. Take taxis. Don't worry. We even hired a driver that we had an open account with. We used to send him money, and he should always pick him up. And he would never use the services. For his wife, he would, but for him, never. And when we got out of the office, I told him, Rabbi, I want to get you a cab to go home, but I know you're not going to agree. So thank God I rented a car this time, so I have a car, I'm going to take you. He said, if I don't agree to that cab, I for sure don't agree that you should give me a ride. You're not my driver. So I told him, what do you mean? I want to spend more time with you. I'll take you. We'll have another 10 minutes in the car. No, it makes sense. We'll get to spend more time together. He says, so I have a better idea. I said, what's the better idea? He says, I normally take bus. I forgot which number. Come on the bus with me. And I said, Rebbe, what do you mean? I told you I have a car. Why should we go on the bus? He tells me it's very simple. I'm assuming you have a fancy car. I'm embarrassed to be seen in such a car. And also, you said that the reason why you want to do it is to spend more time with me. The bus takes an hour and a half. We'll have an hour and a half time to spend together. Car is only 10 minutes, so who are you fooling? And if that's not the reason, so why are you talking for no reason? He says, you don't know that a person's words has to be very calculated? You can't say something if you don't mean it? That was one of the few times in my life I went on a bus. I'm embarrassed to admit, but I took a cab back to my car afterwards. I'm still in therapy. That was his thing. I just went on the bus, stood on the bus. He didn't want to sit down either. Because maybe there's people that are older than him that are going to come on and need the seats and they won't feel comfortable because he's a rabbi that he gets up for them, so he doesn't want to sit. We stood for an hour and a half going to Ramot. It was good. We spoke and learning. It was interesting. Rabbi Akiva, after 24 years, when he came back with 24,000 students and his wife tried to get in and they didn't know that it was his wife, 24 years later, people forget things. And they were pushing her away. He saw her and he said, bring her right away. Shaliva shalachem shalai. Everything that I taught you and everything that I am is because of this lady, Racheli Shadav Akiva, that made me who it is, that caused me to be who I am. And about Mori Rebbe, there's no doubt about it that we could say, Shaliva shalachem shalohu. Everything that I've ever accomplished in life, on any level, was definitely because of him. But not only on a personal level, and not only the greatest blessings in life of being married, having children, raising them b'derech haTorah, kids that are Talmidei Chachamim. A lot deeper than that. A lot more than that, not deeper, more. Reb Shlomo had a rule that he never took a favor from somebody who did him a favor. Definitely not a big favor. So if you were a millionaire, but he helped you, and you wanted to pay off all his debts, he would fight it. He wouldn't let you. He would go to a big extreme. Because he never wanted anybody to ever be able to think that maybe he helped them because he wanted to benefit from it. By him, this was Yareg Val Yavo. So even though he had many very wealthy students, he had a rule that more than $1,000 a month, $1,000 a year, he wouldn't accept from them. And even at times that he was marrying off kids and didn't have money to make weddings, and serious problems, he wouldn't budge from that. He wouldn't budge from it. He would tell me, find me 100 people that'll give money, find me 50 people that'll give money. But that one person, I never wanted him to feel that the reason why I helped him was for money. More than that, if somebody sat with him and spoke to him for a few hours and then took out money out of respect to give it to him, he would try to throw it back in his face. Once in a while, if he saw it was a small bill, so he would accept it, he would say, no, it should be for a mitzvah. And then he would tell me, I did it for him, so he should feel that he paid me, so he doesn't owe me anything. But really, it has nothing to do with that. So obviously, as I got older, and I established my life in a more normal, healthy way, I wanted to pay him back. And I was a successful young kid on street terms. Large business, things going my way. And it came one of the weddings, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Fix the problem, we used to call it. And he figured it out, and he called me, and he told me this will be our last conversation if you think you're going to go ahead with what you're doing. Threatened, literally threatened. You ever got a threat not to give money? I know people who got threats if they don't give money. You ever got a threat not to give money? That's how you know who's true and who's not, who's fake and who's real in this world. Unbelievable thing. Knew, okay, that didn't work. A few months later, he calls me and he tells me, come to Eretz Yisrael. I want to spend a few days with you. It was the middle of August, the end of August. I told him, Rabbi, we're very busy now in business, it's show season, whatever that. Maybe I can come in a week from now. So he said, no, I think it's important for tomorrow. And by me, if Reb Shlomo said something, there was no questions ever. It was made sense, didn't make sense, that's it. He said it was it. So I went. Now I'm already trying to imagine what could be so important. The whole flight I didn't sleep. My mind was racing. What could be so important? Come right away. I get to Israel and he tells me we're going to go to rest a little bit in Miron. Make arrangements, rent the house in Miron, let's go rest a little bit. So I made arrangements right away, yeah, fine. We go up to Miron. This Rebbetzin, Shtibadel Chaim Tovim, she was there. One of his sons also came. And then the first night we're there, we read some Tehillim by the cave, and we're sitting outside this porch of this house that we took. It was very comfortable. And we're talking. And he tells me, let me tell you why I called you. And I told you to stay for a couple of days because I know you're not going to accept it right away. But hopefully by the time you leave, you'll accept it. I said, Rabbi, I accept whatever you say. No, he says, this is already a different league. He says, you remember all the times you try to pay me back? So I said, yeah, why? Are you willing to concede finally? I was like excited. I said, if that's why he called me, what could be better? He said, yeah, I'm willing to concede. So I said, okay, how much? Where do we send it to? He said, no, not the money. And boom, my face dropped, right? My hopes went down. He says like this. He says, you know why not the money? I said, I'll explain you at depth. He says, why do you feel this need to pay me back? Because you say, I saved your life and I helped you in life. So is your life worth $20,000, $50,000, $100,000? What's the price tag? What's the value of your life? He said, by me, a Jewish life is priceless. So anything you'll give me will be an insult. That's not paying me back. That's slapping me in my face, saying I did nothing. So there's no way you could pay me back. I said, but I want to get paid back. I said, okay, you're asking a good question, so what's the answer? He said, so here's the way to pay me back. Take what I taught you and teach it to others. Because you're too married to business and to that. You gotta focus on helping people. That's the focus in life. And it starts right now. I said, by the way, you also have bills to pay. No, Hashem Yazor, people pay bills for you, whatever. It all happens somehow. But you gotta focus your life on helping others. And then he tells me, why do I think you're not gonna accept it even though you'll say yeah? Because you don't know what you're getting into. He says, people are not like you. They're backstabbers, they're ungrateful. There's a lot of ups and downs in the public eye. There's a lot of enemies that you build in the public eye. And he predicted everything that I went through throughout the years, down to the tiniest detail. He said, enough al pikeh. So I said, normally when you go into contract, there's a date on the contract expiration. I said, when does this contract expire? So then he told me 10 years. Fine, I said 10 years it is. For the next 2 days, he gave me a lot of guidance, what to do, what not to do, how to do, everything that was needed, and sent me on my way. And I had notified my partners very nicely that they could either throw me out of the business or buy me out or whatever they want to do, or they could make peace with the fact that our company is becoming a chesed operation, but one way or the other. Fine. At the end of 10 years, he remembered the date to the day. He called me a night before 10 years were up. And he told me we're renewing the contract for one of three things. And only 2 days ago, unfortunately, I understood. Either for 10 more years, or if Mashiach comes before that, or if, God forbid, I'll no longer be in the world, then it doesn't expire because you have to take me over. He was young, he was in his 60s. I said, Rabbi, what are you talking about? How are you even speaking? He said, nobody knows when his day comes. I'm just protecting myself. And he hung up. You can imagine it was a very traumatic few days for me afterwards. So I was counting to the end of this 10 years, but I guess Hashem wants otherwise. And it's amazing but frightening thought. Because, to get to the dust under Reb Shlomo's feet takes a lot of years of work. and to have his love and his Mesiras Nefesh for Klal Yisrael, and no day and no night and no life and nothing, zero. Nothing came, everything was around. Well, what am I going to do to make another boy smile? Or how am I going to? And the biggest thing is a Chacham HaRo'eh HaNolad, to be able to foresee, not through Ruach HaKodesh, through wisdom, the future. He once told me the reason why most people fail in their dealings with their children or with others or with their friends or family or even in business is because they want to see quick results. He said quick results means quick failures. He said big changes means changes that won't last. He says look for tiny changes over a long period of time, and the longer the better, as slow as could be. Those are the things that will actually take effect, work, and last. And there were times we would get involved together either because there was a language barrier or a country barrier with situations, and he would tell me, we're going to do this now, we're going to do this in a few months from now, and in 5 years from now you're going to see the guy is going to come back. I say, 5 years? I don't have white hairs. What 5 years? So he used to laugh at me. He would tell me I have white hairs already, so I'm not worried about that. He said, everybody has to be ready for it. You have to be ready for the change. If you're not ready for the change, it doesn't work. And he's not ready for it now. So we have to keep him afloat till we get to the point that he's ready for that change. So for the next few years, we're going to do pretty much babysitting service, keep somebody afloat, so that one day when he grows up to the point that he's healed enough emotionally and mentally that he's ready to make the right changes, he'll be able to do it slowly and gradually. He was a Chacham HaRo'eh HaNolad in every area, in business. He didn't know the financial system at all, till his last day. But he had the wisdom that if you gave him a scenario in business, he knew clearly how to explain you and describe to you down to the tiniest detail. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you tell this guy this, that's going to happen. He would just play out to you the different scenarios, and then he would tell you, now do whatever you understand. He had such a clarity, such a vision. He would see steps, years ahead, in every situation. People like extreme, extravagant stories. Reb Shlomo was the opposite extreme of extreme, extravagant stories. I don't know how many of those I got for you. But one that comes to mind that I'll tell you, and this is very out of character for him. It was 2008, September 28th this happened, I think, a Sunday. He calls me up and he tells me, Yaakov, all your money that's in the stock market comes out a second earlier. I said, the market's closed today, Rabbi, it's Sunday. He said, 1 second earlier. The earliest possible to get the money out, it's out. Every last dollar. I said, Rabbi, I know the market's been a little volatile, but overall we're making money and things are good. This is my income. What do you mean? He says, do what you understand. And then he says, and remember, I'm in Uman now. It was 2 days before Rosh Hashanah. He used to go to Uman every year. He said, if it was important to call from Uman, it's important. Shav Shana Tova, Hashem shall help, Yishvi Matzliach, Tiva v'Chatima Tova, all the best, and he hung up. I remember calling my broker and telling him, I'm old-fashioned, I don't like the whole digital world. And I told him, you got to sell everything. And he cursed and yelled, and I don't know what he said there. The worst things in the world, he said. Are you crazy? Look how much money you made, year to date, this, that. I said, listen, by me, whatever my Rebbe says is Kodesh Kodoshim. If he said that's the way it is, have a good day. I'm the boss, it's my money. You do what I say. He said, I don't care, I'll make commission on all the transactions, but he says, you're an idiot. I said, okay. An idiot, but that's the way it's going to be. And the following day, I think it was September 29th, it was Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah was on a Tuesday that year, I think. The market tanked 777.68 points. I don't know if it ever tanked more than that in one day in the market's history. So during Aseret Yimei Teshuvah, I used to have this custom whenever I was able to. It wasn't every year, but whenever I was able to, I would fly to Israel just to get a blessing from him and come back before Kippur. So I flew out there and I said, Rebbe, how'd you know? I was close to him, so I was able to get away with asking whatever I wanted. I said, how'd you know? He said, I didn't know. So what do you mean you didn't know? You called me and told me clearly. He said, the only thing I knew was that somebody was willing to sacrifice his business to help Klal Yisrael doesn't deserve to lose money the next day. That's what I knew. How, what, when, I didn't know. He said, I did 1 + 1, that if your money is invested in the market, so that's dangerous, so take it out. But it's not, I didn't know anything. And what he did or didn't know, I don't know. What I know is he saved me a lot of money that day, that's for sure. The only thing was, I didn't think one step ahead like he would have thought. I should have bought short, you know. Made a lot of money on top of that too. But, you know, so that's the extravagant story. You know, people like extravagant stories. But the optimistic attitude to everything in life. One of the stories I like saying over, my youngest son is named after his father. My youngest son, Shibadel Chaim Toli. Binyamin Zev. Havel V'cheshen Zitzel. So once, when the kid was, I don't know, 1.5, 2 years old, he used to cry a lot at night. So I complained to him on the phone. I said, Reb Shlomo, I got to name a kid after your father. He cries all night. What is this? I said, they say that the name of a person has a direct influence on the way he behaves. And there's a lot of truth to that, by the way. That's why we don't call people after those who died young and those who suffered. And Chaim Zion takes it so far that you shouldn't call a girl Miriam for that reason, and whatever. All different things. I'm not saying halacha l'maisa, I'm just telling you theoretically, you know, that there is such a concept. So he tells me, are you surprised? I said, what do you mean? You want to come babysit, Rabbi? Like, what? I didn't understand, like, what he was saying. He says, what do you mean? My father has a direct influence on the boy. You said good. It's true. And you know, my father used to sit up all night and cry for the Beis HaMikdash. How was it? So suddenly what would have been the annoying, frustrating thing became the pleasant experience of a schus to have a neshama that cries for the Beis HaMikdash in life at night. Meaning the same exact thing, it's just a matter of perspective, which way you look at it. He had a positive outlook on every situation. He had a way to look at everything for the good. And I want to say one of the things that stands out to me and drives me, I don't know, I don't know how to make sense out of this. And being smart and understanding a lot has huge benefits. But it also has one tragic element. That if you understand the world, when something doesn't go your way, you don't understand why it's not going your way. For a man who's seen everything so clearly and understood everything in life so clearly, to be diagnosed in November with an illness that didn't even give him, barely gave him 6 months to live, and to go through all the Yisurim of Gehenna, and never once to complain, never once to say something hurts him, never once to ask any questions. On the contrary, to be busy giving chizuk to his students, telling them that he's fine, everything's okay. And even for me, we considered his closer than a son probably. He hid the diagnosis for a while because he said, the more time I could push it off, that another Jew shouldn't have pain because of me, or shouldn't be worried because of me, I'm going to push it off. And for almost 5 weeks, he succeeded to hide from me that he wasn't well. That was his concern in his moments of illness, that another Jew shouldn't have suffering because of me. And to be in such a situation, and never to think why, what happened to the fact that Hashem protects those who help others, what happened to Kol Hayom Chonenu Malveh, what happened to Isha Rabim Tzrichim Loi, what happened to a long list of questions that anybody should ask in such a situation. Not once. Just the opposite, if we ever even hinted to any question, that was the only time he spoke to us harshly. He never spoke harshly in his life. Everything was always warm and love and hugs and kisses. And the only time he ever spoke harshly was if we ever... And his words were, Lama? Why? Yomu bagoyim, not a goy says. He says, you're not a goy, there's no lama. He said, a Jew asks, Ma, what? What does Hashem want from me? Not why, what? No. So we're out of time. Or we were out of time for a while already. But Amaran says that the reason to talk about tzaddikim when they pass away is not because they need you to talk about them, just the opposite. They probably would prefer not. It's so that Klal Yisrael should learn from their ways. And A, that would be Leilud Nishmatam, of course. And B, that betters us. Amaran also writes an amazing chiddush. He says that when a tzaddik passes away, Dor dor v'dorshav. Hashem leaves all his powers and all his spiritual powers and everything he had in this world. V'chol harotzeh litol yavo v'yitol. And anybody who wants can come and take part. And Gedolim had so much tzidkus that there's enough for the whole Klal Yisrael to take from it. Everybody could take and they'll still be left over. So, I don't know, I'm still a little bit in denial, I'm not going to lie. And that's why I'm not in Israel. Everybody has to know what their human capabilities are and when you're ready to face what and how. But I'm a realistic person deep down. And I know that he left a very empty space in the world. And I know none of us, well, at least myself, is not worthy of filling it. I wish I was, but it's far from it. But this much I could say. Reb Shlomo always, his first question when we spoke on the phone, after he said, how are you? And how the kids and whatever, and the wife and the kids. His first question after that was, how's the shiur on Thursday night? He had some emotional attachment to this shiur. I used to ask him, what about the shiur on Wednesday night or on Tuesday night or on Sunday night? No, the shiur on Wednesday night, Thursday night. That was always his thing, to ask about that. That was like his right after the family. That was the next thing that was important to him. How's the shiur on Thursday night? That was his. And he would make me tell him the details down to what I said the week before or what this. And he would have such enjoyment from it and such a simcha from it. And then he would get into more details. Who'd you help this week? What came up? We would discuss. He would give me ideas. You should have said, next time do this way, do this that way. And like this went on for 17, 18 years straight already. Shiur Thursday night's 11 years, but before that also. There were a few times that he actually came here. He wanted to see for himself. He enjoyed it. He wasn't willing to speak, but he wanted to see for himself. He used to enjoy it a lot. So, whatever is in our... We ask Rebbe daven for us from Shamayim. Hashem should protect us from all bad and harm. And we should be happy and healthy. First and foremost, your wife, the tzaddikus. I don't know what it means, sidkus. Besides for his wife that never had a husband for all the years, because for 50-something years straight he was helping people and was never home. When he was sick in the hospital for months, she used to be there every day from morning to night. And she never sat down in the room that he was in. Because she said it's not respect. Because the Sefer Torah was not at home, meaning now in the Aron Kodesh, you're not allowed to sit. She would stand on her feet for hours and hours and hours straight, even though she herself had a brain tumor at the beginning of the year and is living in Benisin. So she wasn't well. And if she needed to sit, she would go outside to the hallway, find a bench, and sit down over there. It's not respect. It's another go. Wild thing. So first and foremost, for your wife, your beautiful 11 children, sons, sons-in-law, daughters, daughters-in-law, their children, their grandchildren. We had a bunch of generations going forward. A lot of times he would tell me with a smile, he said, a lot of people get older, what do they have in life? Golf. He said, you know what I have in life? Nechadim v'ninim shekvar aי efshar lispor otam. Children and grandchildren, there's no way to even count them anymore. Amazing thing. Amazing thing. But what's more amazing is he had so many children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and still remembered each and everyone's birthday. And each and everyone's whatever, and called and says, your birthday today. Mind-boggling. But he even did that for students, so. There was one year that he actually called me to tell me happy birthday and I didn't even know it was my birthday. I didn't realize myself and he knew. So, interesting thing. It's a phenomenon. It makes no sense. There's no way to explain it. We should be a militz yosha on all of us from Shamayim Be'ezer Hashem. And Rabbi, we give you a word that whatever we can do, b'chlal b'frat, to fill the gap, the huge gap that you left in the world, we're definitely going to do. And the expiration date that now doesn't expire, as long as Hashem allows and leaves us in this world, we'll live a life that's a life for others. That's a life that's given to others, to listen to everybody's problems and to try to be a yoetz tov and to try and have the smile and the hug and the food and the borekas and that little touch of warmth for each and every Jew in every situation. And the tzedakahs and chesed that he always pushed us to do, all my charity funds that so many, every year I call Reb Shlomo. I don't know what's going to be this coming year. I tell him, Rebbe, I'm quitting. I'm done. Go begging for money and people don't give, and if they do give, the humiliation involved. I said, I'm done, enough. I paid my dues. Let all these fancy organizations that make dinners, let them do the work. And he used to tell me, yeah, they do the work. They raise a lot of money and it's all used on dinners. He said, you don't have an organization. Your work is the one Hashem wants. So, consulting with a few of his close students, we decided that not only are we going to shrink things, even though I don't know who's going to give us the encouragement to continue when we get frustrated, but hopefully we'll live up to this commitment. We're actually going to expand things. And for the first time, we're allowing ourselves to name something. And our Shabbos fund, we're naming after our Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Levacha, who's going to be in our minds and hearts always. Because when he was alive, every decision that every one of us ever made was always thinking, what would Reb Shlomo say, or what would he tell us to do if we couldn't reach him or we didn't want to bother him. So kal v'chomer today that we can't reach him and bother him that way. So we'll definitely continue doing what we're doing in much larger and greater scales, Be'ez Hashem. And it should be a little bit of a nachat to him in Shamayim, because honestly his entire investment in all of us students was that we should give to others. That's the only reason why he did what he did. He wanted to build a concept of people receiving, filling themselves up in order to spill over and help others afterwards. And Hashem should give us the life and the health and the family life and everything that's needed in every way, shape, and form. And for those who attend the Thursday night shiur, I don't doubt that in Shamayim he's going to be a big advocate for you, because it made him so happy. Each boy and girl, each man and woman that came to the shiur, it was such a simcha to him. He used to ask me for the names and the mother's names, to daven for them, each one what they need, and he cared so much about everyone. And so, Gdolim Tzadikim B'mitatam Yotovim B'chayehem, I don't doubt that in Shamayim he's going to be a big Melitz Yosha and all the Mishtatfim. And there are others that can't be here live a lot and follow in other ways or help out in other ways. B'vadei for them as well. Should be a big Melitz Yosha for the whole Klal Yisrael. And at a later time when I'm more emotionally stable and I have more ability to actually put my thoughts together, maybe I'll be able to describe better what a giant in hiding, I guess is the way to title it, a giant in hiding was able to do for Klal Yisrael. And just 2 days later, how many calls am I getting from his students and how many texts am I getting to his students saying, I got nobody to ask, so I don't know. I got nobody to ask, so I don't know what to do. And I always say, what do you mean, there's so many gdolim? He said, yeah, find me the man that's going to sit with me for 4 hours straight. Find me the man that's going to give me a hug when I walk in and walk out. Find me the man that's going to write down my name in his book and is going to pray for me in the mikveh every day. Find me the man that carries the whole Torah in his mind, but the whole Klal Yisrael in his heart. Find me the one who I can leave him 80 voice messages because he didn't call me back yet because he was busy with 3,000 other things, and I don't feel guilty for doing it because he told me I can leave as many messages as I want and I'm never a stalker or a harasser. So find them for me. Find me the giant that rides the bus. Find me the giant that doesn't have a gabbai or a secretary or a right-hand man. The giant that doesn't sit in a big luxury chair, but in a small place that has a roof that's leaking on his head. Who lives a life of simplicity, but doesn't impose it on others. The man who doesn't change his jacket for 17 years, but will smile to a student and even give him money if he's poor, to buy himself a new jacket, because he needs it, I don't. Find me the one that'll walk me to the store to buy borekas in the morning because he's worried I didn't eat breakfast. Who will sit and drink Coke with me because that's what I like and he wants me to feel comfortable. Who will smoke a cigarette with me because that's what I do, and whether he agrees with it or not, it makes no difference at that point. That's what's going to make me feel welcome. That's what I've been hearing in the past 3 days. And I wish I had the answer. And the only answer that I have is, guys, together we're going to create that man. Each one will take one part. And Ki'ish Echad B'Leiv Echad, together, will recreate at least a resemblance of this Torah giant. Should be a mitzvah for us and the whole Klal Yisrael. Amen. Amen.